Hello, I'm Mr. Burton, and today we're going to be going through an introduction to demand. Now, the three things I want to cover in this video are the definition for demand, the law of demand, and illustrating demand on an individual demand curve and a market demand curve. Okay, so firstly, the definition of demand, how you would write this in an exam. It is the amount of goods and services that consumers are willing and able to buy at any given price at any given time. Now, what that means is just the amount of goods and services that maybe you as a consumer want to buy, but also that you're able to buy, so that you have the actual cash to pay for that as well. So it's important to know that you can't just want the good, that you also need to be able to pay for it as well in order to make it an actual demand. Okay, so how can we show demand and illustrate it on a graph? Well, there's two ways we can illustrate demand. We can either look at the individual demand curve, or we can look at the market demand curve. Now, before I start, just make sure that when I'm illustrating the market demand curve, this is the one that you will use in an exam, and the market demand is really the one you're going to see on a day-to-day basis in your textbooks. However, it is important to understand individual demand and to see how that curve looks as well. I'm going to use the example of lemonade in order to see what my individual demand for lemonade is. I quite like lemonade. This is a particularly good glass of lemonade, and I'm going to see what demand I have at each different price level. So, for example, if lemonade was £3, I might only want one glass of lemonade. So I might put my a little dot there to show that I just want one glass of lemonade for £3. Now, what if that went down to £2.50? Well, I might want a little bit more lemonade. I might be able to afford a little bit more as well. So £2.50, maybe I want a couple of glasses possibly. Okay, so now lemonade's gone down to £2. Well, yeah, maybe I want a little bit more lemonade as the price has decreased, but maybe I don't want 3 glasses because that'll get me pretty full. Maybe I just want kind of 2.5 glasses possibly for £2. And then at £1.50, I'm not going to want kind of 4 or 5 glasses because I'm not going to be able to actually consume those glasses of lemonade. So maybe I only want kind of 3 glasses at £1.50. And as you can see, my demand as the price goes down actually starts to peter off. My individual demand curve actually begins to look downsloping, yes, but at a decreasing rate. And we label that D for demand curve. So here we have the individual demand curve, and we can see from this demand curve that as the price goes down, the quantity demanded goes up. Yes, it goes up at a decreasing rate, but it still goes up as the price goes down. That is the law of demand. The law of demand states that as the price of a good or service goes down, the quantity demanded will go up. Okay, so we've seen the individual demand curve for lemonade, but how can we put this onto a big market demand graph? Well, what we need to do is get all the consumers' demand curves in the market for lemonade. So let's say there's 100 consumers, all with different individual demand curves. Maybe we've got different people looking like this, looking like this, and there's lots of different demand curves here, but we want to actually get some meaningful data from there for the whole market. So we put all these demand curves together and we plot this on a market demand graph. Now, you're correct in thinking that the market demand graph should look the same as this. However, in economics, we like to make things simpler in order to analyse more efficiently. So actually, the market demand graph ends up looking like this. So it is still down sloping, but it's a linear shape for the demand curve. So we can see for the market at £3 we have just less than 1 glass. £2 here, we have around 2 glasses. £1.50, we have around 3 glasses. And you can plot and see at every price level what the market demand is for lemonade. So obviously businesses that sell lemonades can decide what price levels they put their lemonade at, and they can then also see what kind of quantity they may be able to sell if they put it at particular price levels. So the law of demand then, we can see this on this market demand curve as well, and we can see that as the price goes down, the quantity demanded is going up. So as the price goes down here, the quantity demanded is going up, and that is the law of demand. And the reason that as the price goes down, the quantity goes up is because of the income effect and the substitution effect, which I'm going to go through on my next video. Okay, so we have defined demand, we have stated the law of demand and stated the 2 reasons why, and I will go into those in more detail in my next video. But we've also illustrated individual demand curves and the market demand curve on 2 different graphs. Now remember, when you're drawing demand, either in your exams, in lessons, on the bus on the way home, on holiday, whenever you're going to draw it, it needs to look like this for a normal good. Demand curve is down sloping and it's a linear demand curve, and you do not draw it like this in your exam. This is the individual demand curve, and it's important to understand that this is the demand curve that you need to make sure that you draw in your exams particularly. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe below and comment for any other topics you want me to cover in my next videos.